Some doors, once opened, never close again. Some houses remain occupied even after they are destroyed. And some people go on living, yet become strangers in their own lives. In this chapter, I'm taking you inside a house in Konya, a province in Turkey, a house that looks completely ordinary from the outside. There was a Haja living there. A man believed to have a powerful breath, someone who listened to people's troubles and recited prayers for them. But this story is about a prayer that was spoken, an intention that was never properly sealed, and a sin whose price was delayed. In Konya, there was a family of 4. Ordinary, modest, quiet people. But when I tell you this story, you'll understand that ordinary is often just a cover that hides much darker things. Aysen was known for having a strong spiritual breath, a man who prayed for others, but his personality wasn't well formed. He was the kind of person you could pull in any direction. Not a bad man. Not evil. Actually good-hearted. But he revolved around his wife. His wife's name was Zara. Zara appeared simple and submissive, as if she did whatever her husband said. But that was only the surface. In truth, Zara was extremely ambitious, greedy, even. Her eyes were always set on something bigger, something more. If a neighbor bought something, she had to have it too. If someone achieved something, they had to achieve it as well. A bigger house? More money? Always more. That was Zara. And she controlled Aysen completely, wrapped him around her finger. They had 2 children. A daughter and a son. The son was older, Yusuf. He was about to get married. His fiancée's name was Semra. Semra's family was wealthier than theirs. Then there was the younger daughter, Elif. A young girl who didn't get along well with her mother. At first, you might think it was just typical teenage tension between a mother and daughter. It wasn't. Elif was kind-hearted, compassionate, intelligent, and principled. Her mother's jealousy and relentless greed disturbed her deeply. That's why Elif felt closer to her father, the man she saw as more gentle, even if she believed he was being controlled. Inside this house, there was a quiet deadlock. They earned enough to sustain themselves. Yusuf worked. Aysen wasn't doing badly either. But Zara could never be satisfied. And instead of going to work herself if she wasn't happy with their income, like any rational person would, she pushed her husband harder. There was something else happening in this family. Zara was pleased that their future in-laws, Semra's family, were wealthy. It gave her something to boast about. It made her feel superior in front of others. She convinced herself that her son would live comfortably because of it. But at the same time, she weaponized that wealth against her husband. Look at them, she would say. They have it. We don't. They can do it. We can't. They can afford it. We can't. She used it like a blade. I told you Aysen was known as a man with a powerful breath. People came to this house. Mothers brought their children. Usually with small concerns. Our child can't sleep at night. He doesn't eat. She's restless. They say your breath is strong, Haja Aysen. Would you recite a prayer for our child? Blow over them for protection? And he would. But he never accepted money. Not gifts either. Ethically, he believed he was doing it for God's sake. He would say, I recite my prayer for the sake of Allah, and send them home. And that irritated Zara deeply. Because Zara thought in one language, money. Money, money, money. She constantly nagged him about it. And one day, while she was again complaining in the kitchen, muttering about income, about how others had more, a guest arrived at their door. This man had come to them before, a neighbor. He said, Haja Aysen, you recited a prayer for my eldest daughter. After that, her sleep improved, her grades improved. Your breath did her good. Could you read for my little boy too? He can't sit still, he's always moving, doesn't sleep properly, doesn't focus in class. We pray for him, his mother prays for him, but we'd like you to pray as well. Ison agreed. As the man was leaving, he tried to hand him an envelope with some money inside. Under normal circumstances, Ison would never accept it. Up until that moment, he never had. You already know that. But that day, his wife's voice was echoing in his head. Money, we need money, we don't have enough, we need more. For a second, he hesitated. You know that moment, when someone insists, saying, Haja, please, don't make us feel embarrassed. And this time, Ison accepted the envelope. After that, he stopped turning them down. Whoever came, whatever envelope they left, he took it. As money began entering the house, Zara's complaints began to decrease. Her voice softened. She nagged less. Normally, that would be a good thing. But in this case, it wasn't. Because Zara was not a positive force in that house. Her silence wasn't peace. It was a signal. It meant Ison had started stepping into things that did not suit him. From that point on, the number of people coming to their home increased. At first, Ison had focused only on prayers and intentions, the spiritual side of things. But now, the idea of money had settled into his mind. While reciting prayers for the person sitting across from him, new thoughts began creeping in. How much will this one leave? Maybe a little more than the last one. Yusuf has wedding expenses. We'll enroll Alif in university prep courses soon. That's how money works. It seduces. Over time, not only did the number of visitors increase, their requests changed. At first it was, our child doesn't sleep, or our child can't focus. Slowly, that turned into, my husband won't come back to me. I want my boyfriend to love me more. He's starting to look at other women. Different kinds of demands. But Ison treated everyone the same. He sat them down. Recited the same prayer. Took the envelope. Sent them on their way. One day, in a social gathering, Ison ran into an old friend he hadn't seen in a long time. His name was Sammy. At first, Ison was genuinely happy to see him. But as the conversation went on, he began noticing changes. Sammy's clothes were different. His hairstyle had changed. He wore rings now. His car was new. There was clearly an increase in income. But Sammy wasn't in a profession that normally brought in that kind of money. And since Ison had already begun feeling that pull toward money, curiosity took over. Sammy, he said, let's talk. What have you been doing lately? Business seems good. You've improved a lot since the last time I saw you. He started probing. Sammy opened up a little. The situation was this. Just like Ison, Sammy was known as someone whose breath was strong, someone people visited for prayers, for amulets, for spiritual help. The difference? The last time they had seen each other, Sammy had already been doing this work for money from the very beginning. He made amulets. For the man who wanted his business to grow. For the woman who couldn't conceive. But they never openly called it what it was. While Sammy had been doing this for money from the very beginning, Ison hadn't. At first, he never charged anyone. But now he had started taking money too. Still, he wasn't earning as much as Sammy, and that began to bother him. He wanted more. Sammy hinted at it carefully. If you lean a little further into this side of things, he said, if you add a few additional practices instead of just reciting a prayer and sending people home like I do, your income will increase. At first, Ison resisted. Or at least, he tried to. Sammy shrugged. You're not doing anything that different already. Add a few more elements, it's still called prayer, right? What's the harm? And that was enough. The truth was, Ison wanted to be convinced. He was already struggling with feelings of inadequacy. Sammy's words gave him justification. In their conversation, the two men normalized what they were doing, acting as spiritual intermediaries, preparing amulets, performing rituals, all under the guise of prayer. After that talk, Ison crossed the line fully. He began charging more. He added procedures. He started asking for names, something he had never asked for before. He requested personal items. He prepared amulets. He never called it magic. But he no longer called it pure prayer either. Money flowed. Yusuf's expenses were fully covered. Zara fell completely silent. Ison's pockets filled. But as the money increased, his spirituality decreased. Then came the wedding. Like many weddings in Konya, crowded, prayer-filled, joyful. Guests, blessings, celebration. That night, after everyone dispersed, Yusuf and Semra went to their new home. They changed clothes. They were exhausted. They sat down to finally stretch their legs. And then, drip, drip, drip. Water from the bathroom faucet. Semra grew irritated. Yusuf, can you tighten the faucet? It's dripping. He did. Tightened it completely. The dripping continued. Semra frowned. How does this happen in a brand new house? Not wanting their first night ruined, Yusuf said, I'll shut the main valve. We'll call a plumber tomorrow. He closed the main valve. The moment he did, every faucet in the house began dripping at once. The sound multiplied. A sharp, unsettling rhythm filled the entire house. Semra swallowed. Forget it. Let's ignore it. We'll deal with it tomorrow. Just as they were about to go to the bedroom, a sound came from the front door. Like someone trying the handle. Yusuf froze. What was that? Go check, Semra said. He opened the door. No one. When he returned, Semra had opened the bedroom curtains and was staring out the window. There's no one there, Yusuf said. No response. Semra? Slowly, she turned toward him. Her face was blank. Tense. Wrong. Are you okay? Yusuf asked. Could it be your father? She said quietly. What does my father have to do with this? She turned back to the window. Your father left the door open. The moment she said that, the dripping stopped. Complete silence. She turned back to Yusuf with a faint, unsettling smile. Can you hear what I'm hearing? She asked. Yusuf listened. Nothing. Semra, what are you talking about? They're telling me, she said softly, that you're not my husband. Who's telling you? She turned her face away from him. You're not my husband, she repeated. At that moment, Yusuf's tension spiked. This was the woman he had courted, prepared to marry, known for years. This wasn't her. Then his phone rang. It was his father. Yusuf answered immediately. Oglum, Ison said, is everything all right? Are you okay? Not really, Yusuf replied. Semra's acting strange. I know, Ison said calmly. Bring her here. Yusuf didn't question it. They went to his parents' house. Semra did not object. Zara opened the door. She looked at them, and instead of surprise, there was recognition in her expression. We'll handle it, she said calmly, letting them inside. They sat in the living room. Ison came in, holding his prayer beads, murmuring under his breath. The moment he looked into Semra's eyes, he knew something was deeply wrong. He had sensed it already, that's why he had called. Semra looked at him. Not as a request. Not as a plea. As a decision. We're staying here, she said. Yusuf objected at first, maybe a day or two, until she felt better. But Semra acted as if she had already claimed the house. Zara remained calm. Because nothing about this was unfamiliar to them. When you involve yourself in such matters, you don't get shocked when consequences arrive. They prepared bedding in the sitting room. Neither Yusuf nor Semra slept. Near dawn, when Ison woke for prayer, he quietly approached their door and opened it slightly. The scene inside froze him. Yusuf, exhausted, sat upright in bed, barely conscious. Semra was sitting cross-legged, hands open in her lap, facing the wall, as if praying. But she wasn't praying. When she noticed Ison at the door, she slowly raised her hands toward him. And he saw them. Henna before a wedding is normal. But this wasn't henna. Her palms were stained in irregular, dark circular patches. Not red. Not natural. Ring-like, bruised markings. He shut the door immediately and went to the kitchen. Zara was preparing breakfast. "She's not well," he started to say. Zara reached to place a tea glass in front of him. Her hands. The same markings. Identical. At that moment, Elif entered the kitchen. She ran to her father, barely holding back tears, opened her palms, and said, "Father, something held our hands during the night." When Elif walked into the kitchen with the same marks on her hands, everything became clear. Something had happened in that house. And whatever it was, it had attached itself to the women. It had marked them. Just then Yusuf came into the kitchen. He saw his sister, his mother, his wife, all with the same stains on their palms. "Dad, what's going on?" he asked. Ison froze. And in that frozen second, memories started pushing their way back. The last visitor. The last ritual. The last thing he had done. A woman had come to him wanting to destroy a family. She wanted to break a home apart. She had looked him in the eye and said, "I burned. Let them burn too." Now, staring at the dark circular stains on the women's hands, Ison realized they looked like burn marks. He didn't know what to do. The first person he thought of was Sammy. He called him immediately. They met. Sammy listened carefully, then looked at him and said, "What did you do? How did this get this far?" Ison explained everything. The same Sammy who had once encouraged him to step deeper into these practices now shook his head. "I warned you," Sammy said. "You opened a serious door. That's why they've attached themselves to you. They've made your house their dwelling. Now anything can happen. You have to protect your family. I'll prepare amulets," he continued. "Until then, keep them safe." Ison agreed instantly. What else could he do? "Prepare whatever you need," he said. "I'll do what it takes." But inside, he was uneasy. "You do these things too," Ison said quietly. "You're the one who guided me. Why hasn't this happened to you? Has anything like this ever happened in your house?" Sammy's expression hardened. "You crossed a line," he said. "These things have layers. Binding someone's husband to a house is one thing. Breaking a family from its core is another. You went into the darkest level. When you work from that kind of darkness, you attract what belongs there. You're paying for what you did." Ison took the amulets and went home. He personally tied them around his wife's, his daughter's, and his daughter-in-law's necks. He recited over them and said firmly, "You will not take these off." That night was relatively calm. Everyone went to their rooms. Sometime between sleep and waking, Ison felt something in the room. Not a sound exactly, more like movement. Like energy shifting. He opened his eyes halfway and slowly tried to sit up. At the foot of his bed stood Zara, Elif, and Semra. Side by side. Watching him. The sight disturbed him deeply. 3 women standing over him in the middle of the night. He tried to speak. To ask what was happening. But a crushing weight pressed onto his chest. He couldn't move. He couldn't open his mouth. Pain spread through his body. His chest tightened. His arms ached like he was having a heart attack. Zara stepped forward. She raised her hands and showed him her palms. "You made space here," she said. "We filled it." He tried to speak. He wanted to ask for help. But she wasn't his wife anymore. She tilted her head to the side, farther than any human neck should bend. Then the three women twisted their bodies into unnatural shapes. Suddenly they stood straight. And all three of their heads rotated 180 degrees backward. Their bodies faced Ison. Their faces looked the other way. He couldn't tell if he was awake or dreaming. Reality blurred. Then everything went black. In the morning, he woke exhausted. In the kitchen, Elif ran to him, opened her pajama collar, and said, "Dad, look." It burned. The amulet around her neck had burned through. The skin on her chest was scorched. Zara was the same. Semra was the same. All three amulets had burned. Sammy's words echoed in his mind, "It may take time. Protect your family." Yusuf said little. Deep down, he knew about his father's dealings. But he was selfish. As long as his own life was comfortable, he stayed silent. Now he simply waited for his father to fix it. For a few days, things seemed calmer. Then one night, while everyone slept, Ison woke to a strange burning in his throat. Smoke. He jumped out of bed. The house smelled of fire. He ran to the hallway. The doors were closed. In the living room, Zara had set the house ablaze. The curtains were burning. Flames were spreading fast. Zara stood in front of the window, staring at the fire, her back to the door. There was no panic in her. No fear. She was smiling. When she turned and saw Ison, she smiled wider. He ran to the bedrooms, trying the doors. They wouldn't open. The fire had already spread inside. No screams. No attempts to escape. The house filled with smoke. His eyes burned. His lungs tightened. Zara approached him as he fell to his knees. "Dwellings don't burn," she said. "People do." The last thing he remembered before losing consciousness was the sound of glass windows exploding. He woke up in a hospital. Neighbors had called the fire department. He survived. The rest of his family died in the fire. Police questioned him. "Why did your wife set the house on fire?" "I don't know." "Why were the bedroom doors locked?" "I don't know." "Why didn't anyone try to get out?" "I don't know." But he did know one thing. His wife hadn't burned the house because she lost her mind. His actions had burned his family. Sammy visited him in the hospital. Ison told him everything from the very beginning. They talked for hours. And one truth became clear. Ison had always tried to fix things with another amulet. Another ritual. Another shortcut. But he never truly repented. He never once said, "God, forgive me." He tried to control darkness instead of turning away from it. And darkness does not leave the one who touches it. It stays. Ison never left Konya. But he never lived in a house again. From that day on, whenever he heard news of a fire, he asked only one question. Did anyone survive? Because sometimes surviving is not salvation. Sometimes it is a delayed sentence. This story was never about a fire. It was never about madness. It was about a door that should never have been opened. Some dwellings are not built in houses. They are built inside people. And sometimes the one who survives is not the one who is spared, but the one whose punishment has only just begun.